Okay, so proceeding from the previous video, we are looking at how we can make modifications to the column definition. So again, using the alter keyword, then we are altering a table. Which table? It is course. And then what do we want to do? We want to modify as per our altering modification that we want to make. So we say we want to modify. So there's a keyword for modify. And then what do we want to modify? We want to modify a column. Okay, so we have to name the column that we want to modify. So I say that first of all, we're going to change the data type of this code field code from character to variable character. So I just name the column name, so which is code. So I don't have to type again this, since it's the one that I'm changing. Then after writing the code and the column name, then I can write the data type. I can write the data type that I want to change to, which is variable character. And then I can specify the number of characters. So maybe I can go up to 15 characters. Yeah, and if I have any constraint, then I can proceed and add it. But for now, I'll just stop there. Then I can terminate and I execute. So when I execute, obviously I didn't have any error, so I can rerun this. Take note, every time you want to run a previous query, you need to put the cursor in that query, and then you can execute it. Otherwise, you'll be executing a wrong query. So I want to describe my table again to check. So when we check, we see that it changed it from character to variable character. So we just use the modify. You can see add column, modify column. The rest of the things are almost the same, especially these first things. And then here we specify the data type that we want to change to. Okay. Then again with this with the same modification, we want to modify in case we want to change. Maybe we want to increase the length of the faculty number of characters from 20 to maybe 25 or to 30, whatever you want. So alter table, the table is course, and again we want to modify a column. Which column? This time around we want to modify faculty. Okay, and when we say faculty, we just repeat the variable character. Okay, instead of having 20, so we can say we want 30. Then we terminate and we execute. So no problem. Then we describe to see when we check, now it has increased, okay, the number of characters. So the modify keyword works on the variable, on the data type, either to change it from one type to another or to change the length in case the data type accepts length value. So that is for the modification. Then next is to change the name. To change the name of a column. Change column name. So to change a column name, we use the change keyword. So for example, we want to change maybe the word duration, the column name duration, to years, as in how many years does this course take, just for learning purposes. So alter table, our table is course. Obviously, we can use student. I just selected course for the example, but you can do the same thing. We just have to change to course, but make sure that you mention the columns that are within the student table if you're altering something on the student table. Okay, so here we want to change. We want to change. So we want to change the name of the column, change column. Okay, and then what we do is we start with the current name of the column, which is duration. Okay, then after the space we put the new name that we want to rename to, so meaning that we want to type years. Okay, so make sure that you don't type year, because year is a keyword in SQL, so we put years. Okay, so we want to rename from duration to years. Okay, so just take note of the changes here: add, modify, change. Okay, the rest of the things are almost the same, only that some few things again change after the column. So I'll terminate, then I'll execute. It's telling me there's a problem. Okay, so when you type the new column, you need to put the data type. You have to add the data type of the new column, because you might be changing the column name as well as its data type without maintaining it. So, but we are maintaining the same data type, so it is int. Okay, so I just add the data type. So this error, that's why this error was coming, because it is telling me near and there was nothing, so meaning that there was something missing at the end. So execute, everything is fine. Then if I try to run my describe, so you find that it has changed from duration to years, but it has maintained. So in case I want to change this data type, what do? And now I have to use the modify. Okay, I have to use the modify. So basically that's how we do the modification. And lastly, about columns, that is in case you want to remove, here we call it dropping. We no longer need the column and we want to remove it. So like we added a column, department. So let us use student for now. I didn't add a comment here. You can change the name of a column. Okay, and then here the comment will be removing or deleting column. Okay, so I'm going to use student for now, just to demonstrate. So first, I'm going to remove the column birth date, just for demonstration purposes. Then you can add it. So I'm going to say alter table. So this time around, we are working with student. Okay, and then what we want to do is to drop. Okay, the keyword is to drop, and then you want to drop a column. Which column? Birth date. Okay, birth date, and that will be all. So it has executed, so I can re-execute this. So the reason that's why I always come back, I don't want to rewrite this so many times. I just maintain one statement. Every time I want to execute that, I just come back, I put my cursor in there, and I terminate. And by the way, the cursor doesn't have to be necessarily at the end. You can, as long as it is anywhere. So when you execute, the command will just run. As long as it is anywhere within the statement. Don't always force it to be at the end. Okay. Yeah, so what did we do? We were okay. Now this is for course. I want to describe students, so in that case I have to rewrite, since there's a change in the table name. Okay, because the changes I made were affecting the table student. So I'm describing my table student to see whether the column has been removed. So obviously I don't have it. It was dropped. So that is how we drop. That's how we drop the table. So those are some of the modifications that we do. We looked at renaming first. Okay, I think that's what we did first. In case you want to rename the table itself, then the modifications that you can do, or the changes that you can apply on the columns. We said you can add, that is, you want to add a new column, you can remove the last one that we have looked at. You can modify something about the data type of the column, either to a new data type, to a different data type, or we change the length of the data type. Okay, and then this one obviously it will change the name of the column. So if you look at our slides, I think those are some of the changes that, okay, this one, the last one for constraint. Okay, let us look at the constraint one. So obviously these are our changes on table, and then table columns. Actually, let me add table columns, because table columns, and then column constraints. Well, let me just write constraint. I believe you will be following constraints. So on the constraint, we can add and we can remove constraint. Obviously, we can drop. So we can just say you want to add a constraint, and you can also drop the constraint. Those are the only two that we are going to look at. So for example, if you we have a few constraints here. Okay, let me refer to the slide. So we have these constraints here. We'll put it in the mode. So you have the check constraint, we have the enum or the enumeration. It is just a short form for enumeration, and then this one is not null. Okay, and foreign key. So we have already looked at what not null is. We are going to look at foreign key later on when you want to join to relate two tables, not joining, but you want to create a relationship between two tables. We shall look at how do we add the constraint for foreign key. And this check, we are saying that it limits the column domain. That is, for example, you don't want your columns, I mean the records in your table to exceed a given number. Okay, maybe you have said that, okay, for a particular course you can only admit up to 4,000 up to like 100 students. Okay, so you can use the check to check whether the number of records are not yet exceeding that limit. So you can use the check. So every time we are inserting a record, it first checks the number of records, whether it is still within the range. If it is beyond the range, then it will reject any more records for that table. And then the enum, this one it specifies specific values for a set of columns. For example, when you look at our column gender, okay, we know that for gender there are only two possible values. We have male and female. So you can enumerate those two, and by doing so we are limiting it to only those two, whereby someone cannot type in any other thing apart from those two. So that's what we call enumeration, and that's what you're going to look at with this alter, the changes we can perform on the constraints. So we said our enum is correct. Our gender, sorry, our column gender has the data type character, so we want to add a constraint for enum. So how do we do that? Again, using the alter table. So you can say add constraint. So you're adding a constraint because it is not there. Constraint like that. So what constraints are we adding? So you're adding the enum. So enum, we just open the brackets, okay, and then we list the values that we want to enumerate separated by commas. For example, now since our gender, we say that is only one character, so we can just use, we only expect F, okay, and M, okay. So because these are characters, character values have to be surrounded by single quotes in SQL. We don't use double quotes. Double quotes are used for some other things. So we always maintain single quote symbols for string values or character values. So basically, I think that, and okay, near add. So okay, I have to specify the table that I'm changing, which is student. Okay. So I'm just reading this because it's telling me near add. So the problem was, okay, before add there was something missing. So that's how I fixed it. And again, near if add constraint. Okay, so I have to put the name of the column as well. So which is gender. I have to start by naming the column name and then the constraint. Okay, and okay, so I have to again put the data type character 1 and inner. Oh, okay, let me just check the syntax from the slide. I take long to go through this, so sometimes I forget. Okay, I rarely use the inner, and let me check the syntax. So okay, so we have to use the modify outer table modify. So we don't have add constraint, but there is a command for add constraint for some constraints. Like now the check, we can see that we used to have add constraint and then the column and the condition. The example here for customer, so meaning that you don't expect customers. We only accept customers for as long as they are still less than 1,000. Once we reach 1,000 customers, we don't add any customers, or the table will not accept. So for inner, it is modify column. It is not add constraint. That was the thing that I fixed out. So it is modify column. So gender, and then I think we have to repeat the data type. Okay, it is just the inner. We don't put the data type. Okay, and like that. Okay, so sorry about that. So if I try to describe my table student, you find that okay, now it has changed it to from car one to the enumeration that you have just put. And as we shall see with the insertion, you find that you can't add any character apart from these two. So that is the outer keyword. Let me end this tutorial here, and we shall look at the insert command next in the next tutorial.